Luckies. So the video you're about to watch is like a combination of the vacation I went on in Arkansas and the mini vlog. So I didn't finish it because I was too busy with friends and having fun and just really didn't enjoy it. And like, I enjoyed it, but I just didn't really think of recording or finishing the vlog out. So yeah, so that's gonna be it, and plus a mini vlog of one of the days, but I'll try to be back into regular vlogging. Till then, bye. Love y'all. Good morning, my lucky friends. We are on our way to Eureka Springs, Arkansas for a youth trip. There's Shelby in the back with Raiden behind me. I'll tell y'all, when we make a stop, I'll see y'all then. Bye.
A few moments later.
And
what am I doing?
And so this is Shelby Crabtree. What would you rate this trip on a scale of 10?
A 20.
20? How about that food we just ate?
Chicken strips were pretty good.
So if y'all didn't know, we stopped at Chester's. I forgot to film that part. Oopsies. So we're 2 hours and 35 minutes away from our destination, which is pretty crazy. We're all excited and tired.
I got a pee.
The video is chaos, but that is okay. A organized chaos. Does that make sense?
Oh, what do you call it, organized?
Does that make sense? No, that don't make sense. Oh well, I'll see you guys in a little bit. Hey guys, so we didn't make it to our destination safely. We did make a couple stops in between. We did do good for time. Right now we're at a restaurant trying to wait to eat, but one of my friend's parents went to another restaurant to see if the time was shorter. So if it is good, then we're gonna go. If not, then we're gonna stay here. But I'll see y'all in a bit. Bye. Good morning, people. I didn't finish filming yesterday because it was late and I forgot part of it. And we were all exhausted, so we just kind of ate and then came back to the cabin and relaxed. But today is a really busy day, and can't wait to bring y'all along. So I'll see y'all when we get there. Bye. Hey guys, so we made it here. There's Shelby. And we are going to be starting the tour soon, and I'll vlog a little bit here and there, not much. So, bye. Bye.
If you're all doing the
A few moments later.
here at the Great Passion Play. Before I launch into it all, I'd like to kind of interact with all of you. Just set a few ground rules. I try to have an open discussion with you. If you have a question on something I say, doesn't quite sound right to you, or you want to go a little deeper into it, feel free, ask me. You won't hurt my feelings. I'm quite used to it. I would rather you understand more about the tabernacle and the things of God than you hurting my feelings. So feel free, ask any questions you have. We are all adults here, or at least I'm going to treat you like adults. So if you need to take a drink, take a drink. You're not going to hurt my feelings. If you need to use the facilities, the restrooms, man, he made from the clay. He breathed a spark of the divine into us. That divine spirit that we have, our soul. And initially, we could directly dwell with God. There in the garden, God walked among us, and we could have a face-to-face interaction with him. But sin entered into the world, and it created an abyss between us and of God dwelling with us. I'm going to have to take you on back a little bit, give you some history of the relationship between God and his creation man. There at the first, we are the only thing that God shaped with his hands. The rest of creation, he spoke into existence, and it was, and it pleased him. But man, he made from the clay. He breathed a spark of the divine into us, that divine spirit that we have, our soul. And initially, we could directly dwell with God. There in the garden, God walked among us, and we could have a face-to-face interaction with him. But sin entered into the world, and it created an abyss between us and God. No longer could we directly dwell with the Lord. His holiness is separate apart, could not tolerate the sin that was in us. We've also seen recreations of the tabernacle, where it was 5 set across. Now, in Hebrew, you do not say the name of God. Very rarely do you use a full name of God. Often, you would represent it with a single letter, the first letter in that particular name. These 5 pillars recall the letter Shin. And during the benediction, the blessing given by the priests, they would hold their hands in what's called the Shafat Tal. This is the 5 points. These 5 fingers are the blessing of God on the people. It was held in the traditions that the Lord would peek through the priest's fingers, that his glory would shine through it. That's why they would cover it with the prayer cloth when that benediction was being offered, so none could see the glory of God and have harm befall them. I believe that this is what the tabernacle's 5 columns are showing to us. It is inscribing the very name of God on the tabernacle. It's showing it to his people. He is peeking through these columns, his glory, out from underneath the sin of goat hair, the sacrifices of rams dyed red, the tough outer coating of leather separating his holiness from the sin of the world. It is only here from the east that we can see that glory coming out and shining upon us. The Hebrew letter Shin represents El Shaddai, the Almighty God, the protector God, the provider God, the God who came on the mountain. So, as I said, in the morning, the sunlight would hit this, and you would have that brilliant stream of golden light coming down, just as the glory of God would shine through the fingers of the priest. This would be the only part of the tabernacle the common Israelite would be able to see, and it would be the name of God blessing them. We also here have a screen. This would have been the only color of the tabernacle outside of the building itself. And we can see that blue, the color of the law. Purple, the kingly color, a color reserved for royalty. And of course, scarlet, the color of blood, the color of sacrifices. Now, if you want to get into a little bit of color typology with me for a moment, blue is the law. It is that perfect moral law the Lord gave to us. Blood is the sacrifices. That blood not only represents the sacrifice of the animals, but it would represent the sacrifice of Christ. That sacrifice of the Messiah to come. And these 2 colors together wind up into a kingly color, into a royal color. Not only acknowledging the kingship of Christ, but also the adoption of those who believe in him. The adoption into the royal family, that trusting in the sacrifice and the law together gives you this royal adoption. We may now proceed in of space. It was to be a bare earth underneath your foot. Anything that was there would have been pulled up. It would have been a direct connection with God's creation underneath your foot. But for most other kings that were in the center of their camp, for other false temples that were moving around, this inner courtyard would have been lavishly decorated. This would have been where the king was showing off his wealth. That there are even tales of some of the Babylonian kings having entire gardens traveling with them that would have been in their inner courtyards. So to see this, the austerity of it, it shows was indeed ready to go inside and minister before the Lord. It's now a reflection even we need to have on our daily lives, that not only do we need the cleansing of the water, we need to always examine our hearts to see that we are ready for service to the Lord, that we can minister before Him, that we are not allowing our guilts, our regrets, the sins we have against our brother to come between us and the service of God. If y'all would like of the Lord God, y'all down there are getting to see a little bit extra, but I have a lot of people today, so I will get down there. Now, feel free to take pictures, ask questions. We're going to get into the finer details of these articles. I'm going to get a little gospel-y with you, so if I say anything, once again, ask questions, feel free. We note, once again, this is very austere. It does not have many articles inside the sanctuary. Once again, the Lord is looking for obedience in His worship, not extravagance. If you are following His commands, His correct place, it would have been pressed there against the south. This was made from a beaten talent of gold. So, using our weights, this was 60 pounds of gold, no seams, all hammered together. Hammered in the shape of almond buds, of lilies, of knops, richly decorated. Now, does anyone recall why almond buds would have been so important in these decorations? You'll see I say it quite often. When the Israelite elders challenged Aaron on whether his family should be the ones that are the high priests, the Lord commanded that they set their staffs and Aaron's staff before him in the tent of meeting, the forerunner of the tabernacle. When they left it and came back, Aaron's staff had budded with almond blossom.
There's the bread I didn't get to see.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Oh, and how much did the Hanukkah pay?
Limestone.
It's a good beer. Yeah, because
We're not shy because we can get at least 8 to 10 people in each room. And then when we fill up all the rooms, then we begin to fill up the courtyard. Now the reason the door frames are low is because the Romans used to come in on their horses. Yes, you will be safe here at Bethlehem Inn, but the Romans do harass us from time to time. Now I do not provide meals. I only cook for my own family, so you will have to bring your own food. But we do keep the fires burning. There's an oven over there. But we don't use wood because wood's pretty scarce around here. We use dung. But we make make sure it's really, really dry.
Hey Google, turn on light.
And as I was telling them that this was fake, because if it was real, it would have a little hole here for them to put parts in. And all of these have, if you go online, you'll see that most of them have a lot of things. You can just come look at this.
Oh, so this is the old, locker.
This is so cool.
They actually have a water pipe.
Happened in this room. What would you do if you knew that you had less than 2 days left to live? Would you tell all your friends and family? Would you plan an elaborate dinner party and celebration and invite all your closest friends? Jesus told his disciples, but they just didn't catch his reference to him being the one to be crucified. Hello, my name is Benjamin, and I was a servant here during the time that Jesus' disciples spent their last meal together, in this very room. At the time, Jesus' disciples didn't know that this was going to be the last meal that they would ever spend together. Passach, the Hebrew word for Passover, is a celebration. We laugh, we eat, and we remember. We remember how we were freed from Egypt and celebrate the miraculous things we saw. There are many blessings that all begin with, "Blessed are you, O Lord, our God, King of the universe." And there are 4 questions that all begin with, "Why is this night different from all other nights?" And there are 4 cups of wine with blessings ending with, "Creator of the fruit of the vine." Using the meal, we remember that our Creator did many wonderful and fearful things. The final and most terrifying wonder happened on their last night in Egypt, and they were told to prepare a lamb for supper and put its blood on the top and side doorposts of their homes. They were told that it would protect them from the death, and they were told that God would see the blood and pass over them. When we have a Passover, it has to be done in a specific order with specific things. There are times of blessing the food and wine, and we are also commanded to use unleavened bread, which is simply bread with no yeast. Because in the wilderness, my people had no time to let bread rise, because they had to be ready to move suddenly. Also, in God's word, the yeast represents sin or corruption. So unleavened bread just reminds us that we are to separate ourselves from the sinful world and dedicate ourselves to God alone. Each person recites blessings from the Haggadah, meaning order of service. We do this in remembrance of the wonders, often called plagues. During one part of the service, we dip our finger in our cup of wine and place a droplet on our plate. 1 drop for each wonder or plague. Other parts of the Passover include carpets, which is usually parsley dipped in salt water, to represent the tears of the enslaved people. There is lamb representing the Messiah, and the breaking of the matzah, which prophesies the Messiah's body to be hidden away, only to rise again. So why is this night different from all other nights? Because of Jesus. Jesus came in and so much peace filled the room. He saw that I was bringing a bowl of water to wash the feet of those in the room. Because it is our custom for the homeowner to provide a servant to wash the feet of those who enter the home. Jesus, being the most important man in the room, was not a servant, but he took the bowl away from me and he wrapped the towel around himself. I started to protest because I didn't want to get in trouble for letting a guest, especially such an important guest like Jesus, wash feet. But he looked at me and said it was just something that he had to do.
So he went from disciple to disciple, washing their feet, until he got to Peter. And Peter quickly stood up to object, saying, "Lord, I cannot let you wash my feet." And Jesus said to him, "If I do not wash your feet, you will have nothing with me." And Peter quickly said, "Then do not just wash my feet, but wash my hands and head as well." But Jesus said to him, "A man that has had a bath does not need to be washed, except for his feet, because the rest of his body is already clean. And you people are clean, although not every one of you." The women in Jesus' group volunteered to help the landlord and us servants prepare the room for the dinner. There were things like the bitter herbs to gather called maror. There was lamb to prepare, matzah to make, and the room had to be cleaned all in a hurry. Even Mary Magdalene helped with the cooking and serving. Something else I remember so clearly about that night was the breaking of the matzah. Jesus became very sad as he broke the bread in half and said to his disciples, "Truly I tell you, one of you here shall betray me." Jesus' disciples were very confused, and they started asking questions amongst themselves, wondering who might it be? Who would do such a horrible thing like this? And as they were talking, Jesus said something to Judas that the other disciples didn't hear, and Judas left. At the time, I could tell the other disciples gave it no real thought. I'm sure they all thought it had something to do with getting the temple taxes paid. Later, one of the other disciples asked Jesus if something was wrong, because Judas's face did not look very happy. But again, they still gave it no real thought. After the Passover, Jesus brought out more bread, and he broke it in half and he passed it, commanding that they eat. For it was his body, and he would not taste it again until the day of the Lord. He said that they needed to do this to remember him, as if any of them could ever forget him. And he brought out another goblet of wine, and he passed it, just as he had the bread, commanding that they drink. For it was his blood, and he would not drink it again until it was fulfilled in the kingdom of heaven. Jesus' disciples were just starting to realize that he was talking about his body to be broken and his blood to be spilled out for them. They had all been in Passovers their whole lives, but they never experienced something so unusual. These rituals, prayers, and symbolic foods were just a wonderful part of a delicious holiday meal, and I could tell that was all that was really on their minds. After the meal, Jesus said that they were to go to the Garden of Gethsemane for prayer, and I will send you there now to my friend Mary Magdalene. Shabbat Shalom, and thank you for coming.
But nothing was working. I started losing hope that I would be stuck and possessed like this forever. But up until the moment when I met Jesus, and when I met him, he healed me instantly. And from that moment on, I knew that I was going to follow him and watch him pursue his ministries everywhere else he went. So as I followed him in the 12, we were becoming more Jerusalem one day. And as we were entering in, there was a crowd of people that were surrounding us. They were calling Jesus the Son of God, yelling Hosanna, and they were even waving palms in the air. And we thought this was so amazing that so many other people could see joy that we got from Jesus, and they wanted it too. So before anything else happened, me and the rest of the women in the group had prepared a place for Jesus and his disciples to go and have something to eat and cool off for a little while. So we would go into prepare the upper room where you guys have just come from. And about halfway through the meal, one of Jesus' disciples just walked out, and we really didn't know where he was going or what he was doing. But we thought if Jesus let him go, there'd be an explainable reason for it. So we let him continue on his way. And after Jesus and the rest of the disciples got done eating, they walked out as me and the rest of the women were following. And Jesus led us to the Garden of Gethsemane, where there he was praying for hours and hours. And at the time, we didn't really know what Jesus was praying for or why he was praying for so long, but we didn't interrupt him. We let him continue. And after Jesus got done praying, there was a moment of silence that came upon us. And we didn't know it at the time, but that would have been the last silent moment we had for a really long time coming. And after the moment was over, there was a mob of people. They were coming to arrest Jesus, and they were calling him a blasphemer. And keep in mind, this is some of the same crowd of people that were once before calling Jesus the Son of God, yelling Hosanna. We're now waiting to arrest him. And the leader of the whole mob was Judas, the same disciple that had just walked out hours before. And you see, I will never understand Judas whatsoever. He'd been with Jesus just as long as I had. He'd seen everything that I had. And he still made this decision. And even Peter, one of Jesus' own disciples, he took his sword and he cut off one of the guard's ears. And Jesus still healed the guard instantly, as he didn't want any violence. So he went with them willingly. And after this, we didn't hear or know anything about Jesus for hours, up until he was sent on trial with Herod and then to Pilate. And going to Pilate, we thought there was some hope, knowing that he was of our culture, he knew our customs, and even he could see that Jesus was innocent. So he had a plan to release Jesus. But the Pharisees also had a plan for this too. So while Jesus was on trial with Pilate, the crowds just weren't satisfied with the fact that they were going to release him. So he thought maybe if he would release Jesus to the guards, that would satisfy them. So the guards were whipping Jesus, and they were beating him to the ground, where Jesus was beaten until he was unrecognizable. And honestly, if you didn't know Jesus before, you couldn't even tell that this is a man now. And after Pilate had the guards stop, but the crowd still weren't satisfied with what was going on. As me and the rest of my group, we tried so hard to get Pilate to listen to us. But it was for no use, as Pilate had already made up his decision of what he was going to do. So he released Jesus to the crowds as they took him and 2 other men, and they took him up to the hill of Golgotha, where they were nailed on a cross. And after this, there was a huge storm that came upon us, knocking all of us to the ground. And in that moment, we were terrified, thinking maybe this is the worst possible thing that could be happening to us. But then, in that moment, we realized that Jesus is God. And so after the storm had settled down a little bit, the guards were instructed to break the bones of the men on the cross. So they broke the legs of the men on either side of Jesus and took a spear and pierced Jesus' side, knowing that no bones in his body would be broken. Shortly after, he was taken off the cross and brought to the tomb, where me and the rest of the women in the group had prepared spices and linens, knowing this is the best that we could do at the time, because the Sabbath was coming very near to us. So we put Jesus in the tomb, and we shut the gate. But you see, the Pharisees still weren't satisfied with this either. So they had a big stone roll in front of it and placed a guard on each side of the stone, knowing that no one was to enter until after the 3rd day. So for 3 whole days, me and the rest of the group are praying, hoping constantly that something good could come out of this in the end. We could see a reason for everything that had been happening. But on the 3rd day, I woke up and I just couldn't wait anymore. I had made a plan to where maybe I could sneak around the guards or view it from a different angle to where I could see what was going on. But then, when I appeared to the tomb on the 3rd morning, the guards were gone, the stone was rolled away, and the tomb was empty. I was terrified, thinking maybe had grave robbers have come, or thinking more worse things possible. But then, an angel appeared above the tomb, which terrified me even more. But they were telling me, but do not be afraid, for you're looking for Jesus. He is not dead, but he is alive. He is walking among the living, to go and tell everyone around me. So here I am running to all the disciples and all the rest of the women in the group, telling them that Jesus must be alive, that the tomb was empty and the stone was rolled away. And you think they believed me? No, they didn't. So John and all the rest of the disciples are running back up to the tomb to see everything that I had told them. Everything was true. And they were looking around for themselves if they could find any sign to believe what had just happened. And when we looked inside the tomb, we found that Jesus' headscarf was wrapped very nicely and cleanly folded. And you may not know this, but in our culture, if the king of the house was done with their meal, they would just scrounge up their napkin and throw it on the table to show everyone in the house that they were done with their meal and they were not coming back. But if it was folded very nicely and cleanly, as this one was in the tomb, it was showing, for he is not done, for he is coming back. And so while the disciples were at the tomb with me, they were scared that maybe the guards were going to come back and they would be arrested for being somewhere they weren't wanted. So they ran away scared, but I couldn't. I fell to the ground knowing that I didn't even know what to believe anymore. But it was up until I heard a voice of a man come up behind me. And at the time, I just thought it was a gardener, knowing he had plants around that he would take care of. And he asked me why I was crying. And I told him that my Lord was gone, and I had no clue if he was actually even alive like I had been told and believing this whole time. But then he said my name, and I knew it was Jesus standing right in front of me. He was actually alive, and he appeared to me. And he was telling me to go and tell everyone that he appeared to me, and he will appear to them too. So yet again, I am running to all the disciples and the rest of the women in the group, telling them that Jesus is alive. He's actually alive, and he appeared to me this time, and he will appear to you too. And you think they believed me then? No, they still didn't, but that's okay, because Jesus also appeared to all of them and everyone else in the town. And before he left us, he was telling us, but do not be afraid, for go and spread the good news, go and spread the love that Jesus had when he was on earth, and that he is coming back for his believers one day. And so that is all we offer for the Holy Land today. You guys.
Howdy! So all the clips y'all saw were from the Great Passion Play area. We did different tours and everything. So the tours we did were a package deal that you could do. And this was all located in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. I highly suggest y'all go check it out. It's so amazing. My mom got some of the videos of the Great Passion Play, but I didn't like add it in there because it had some copyrighted music. I guess I could have edited it out, but I want y'all to enjoy it firsthand. I highly suggest y'all go see it. But this will wrap it up for today's this past week's videos, and I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and see y'all next time. Love y'all.